The fusion core hummed beneath Yuna's hands as she tightened the final connection. Sweat dripped down her face in the hot maintenance tunnel of Nexus Prime Station. 400 years. That was how long humans had been servants to the aliens who ruled the galaxy. 400 years since the Galactic Concordat arrived at Earth and declared humanity too dangerous to govern itself. Yuna wiped her forehead and checked her tools. At 28, she had spent her entire life fixing machines for alien masters. Her parents had done the same. Their parents before them. Generation after generation of humans, told they were too violent, too unstable, too primitive to be free. Yuna, report to Bay 7 immediately. The voice crackled through her comm device. It was Supervisor Thal, one of the gray-skinned aliens who oversaw human workers. His voice always sounded annoyed, as if speaking to humans disgusted him. She climbed out of the maintenance shaft and walked through the crowded corridors. Other humans moved past her, heads down, moving quickly to their assigned tasks. Nobody made eye contact. Nobody spoke unless necessary. That was life under the Concordat. You worked, you obeyed, you survived. Bay 7 was usually empty at this hour. When Yuna arrived, she found a crowd gathered. Human workers stood in a circle, forced to watch something. Her stomach dropped. Public punishments always drew crowds. The Concordat made sure everyone witnessed what happened to those who broke the rules. In the center of the bay, an old man knelt on the metal floor. Yuna recognized him instantly. Hansu, her mentor, the man who taught her everything about fusion systems. The man who sometimes spoke quietly about the old days before the Concordat came. This human has been convicted of sedition, Thal announced, his voice echoing through the bay. He was found teaching forbidden history to younger workers. He spoke of Earth's violent past. He glorified warfare and aggression. Such behavior threatens the peace of the Concordat. Yuna wanted to scream. Hansu had only told stories. Stories about how humans once explored their own world, built their own cities, fought their own battles. He never called for rebellion. He just wanted people to remember. 2 Concordat guards stood behind Hansu. They wore armor that shimmered with energy shields. Each carried a pulse weapon that could turn a human to ash in seconds. Hansu looked up at the crowd. His eyes found Yuna. He smiled slightly as if to say it was all right. As if this was a price worth paying. The pulse weapon fired. Blue light filled the bay for a moment. Then Hansu was gone. Just a scorch mark on the metal floor where he had knelt. "Return to your duties," Thal ordered. The crowd dispersed quickly. Nobody wanted to be remembered as someone who lingered at an execution. Yuna walked back to her quarters in a daze. The small room she shared with 3 other workers felt suffocating. She lay on her bunk and stared at the ceiling. Something inside her had broken, or maybe something had finally awakened. That night she found a data chip hidden in her toolbox. It had not been there this morning. She plugged it into her personal tablet, hands shaking. A message appeared on the screen. Text only, no audio. They want us to forget what we were. They want us to believe we deserve to be servants. But some of us remember. Some of us know the truth. If you want to learn what they are hiding, come to Section D7, Sublevel 9, at midnight. Come alone. Delete this message. Yuna deleted it. She lay back down, her heart racing. This was insane. If caught, she would end up like Hansu. But Hansu died trying to help her remember. Could she honor his memory by staying silent and obedient? Across the station, in the military section, Captain Doyen studied reports in his office. At 35, he commanded a small unit of human soldiers in the Concordat Enforcement Division. It was one of the few positions where humans held any authority, though they always answered to alien officers. The reports troubled him. Strange messages passing between human workers. Whispered conversations that stopped when supervisors approached. Small acts of defiance. Tools going missing. Minor sabotage to equipment. Nothing major, but the pattern concerned his superiors. "Captain, you will investigate these incidents," his commanding officer, a tall insectoid alien named Kresh, had ordered that morning. "Humans are your species. You understand how they think. Find the source of this unrest and eliminate it." Doyen knew what eliminate meant. It meant executions. It meant innocent people dying because they were connected to whoever was causing trouble. He had watched it happen before. He had even participated, telling himself he was preventing worse violence. But lately, doubt gnawed at him. He had been reading classified files, things most humans never saw. Historical records of Earth before the Concordat arrived. Humanity had been divided, yes. Violent, yes, but also creative, determined, capable of incredible things. They had explored their entire solar system with primitive technology. They had survived countless wars and disasters. The Concordat taught that humanity needed guidance, that without alien oversight, humans would destroy themselves. But what if that was a lie? What if humanity was kept weak on purpose? Doyen shook his head. Dangerous thoughts. He had a duty. He had sworn an oath. He would investigate the unrest and file his report. That was all. He started with the database looking for patterns. The messages all referenced something called the Phoenix Archive. No details, just the name. Workers mentioned it in whispers, quickly silenced. Some spoke of remembering the fire, or the old strength. He decided to interview a worker who had been flagged for suspicious behavior. A young man named Taman, barely 20 years old. They brought him to an interrogation room, scared and confused. I did not do anything wrong, Taman insisted. I just work in the gardens. I grow food, Doyen studied him. The boy was terrified, but there was something else in his eyes. A flicker of defiance, a spark that refused to die. Tell me about the Phoenix Archive, Doyen said calmly. Taman's face went pale. I do not know what that is. Do not lie to me. I can help you if you cooperate. But if you refuse, my superiors will take over the questioning. They are not as patient as I am. The young man's jaw tightened. He looked directly at Doyen. You are human like me. How can you serve them? How can you hunt your own people? The question hit Doyen like a physical blow. He had asked himself the same thing many times. He had no good answer. Before he could respond, alarms blared throughout the station. His comm device activated. Captain Doyen, report to command immediately. We have a situation. He left Taman in the room and rushed to command. On the screens, he saw something impossible. 3 Concordat supply stations in 3 different systems had gone dark simultaneously. All defenses disabled. All communications cut. For the first time in 400 years, someone had struck back against the Concordat. Humanity had just thrown the first punch in a war that would shake the galaxy. The fusion core hummed beneath Yuna's hands as she tightened the final connection. Sweat dripped down her face in the hot maintenance tunnel of Nexus Prime Station. 400 years. That was how long humans had been servants to the aliens who ruled the galaxy. 400 years since the Galactic Concordat arrived at Earth and declared humanity too dangerous to govern itself. Yuna wiped her forehead and checked her tools. At 28, she had spent her entire life fixing machines for alien masters. Her parents had done the same. Their parents before them. Generation after generation of humans, told they were too violent, too unstable, too primitive to be free. Yuna, report to Bay 7 immediately. The voice crackled through her comm device. It was Supervisor Thal, one of the gray-skinned aliens who oversaw human workers. His voice always sounded annoyed, as if speaking to humans disgusted him. She climbed out of the maintenance shaft and walked through the crowded corridors. Other humans moved past her, heads down, moving quickly to their assigned tasks. Nobody made eye contact. Nobody spoke unless necessary. That was life under the Concordat. You worked, you obeyed, you survived. Bay 7 was usually empty at this hour. When Yuna arrived, she found a crowd gathered. Human workers stood in a circle, forced to watch something. Her stomach dropped. Public punishments always drew crowds. The Concordat made sure everyone witnessed what happened to those who broke the rules. In the center of the bay, an old man knelt on the metal floor. Yuna recognized him instantly. Hansu, her mentor, the man who taught her everything about fusion systems. The man who sometimes spoke quietly about the old days before the Concordat came. This human has been convicted of sedition, Thal announced, his voice echoing through the bay. He was found teaching forbidden history to younger workers. He spoke of Earth's violent past. He glorified warfare and aggression. Such behavior threatens the peace of the Concordat. Yuna wanted to scream. Hansu had only told stories. Stories about how humans once explored their own world, built their own cities, fought their own battles. He never called for rebellion. He just wanted people to remember. 2 Concordat guards stood behind Hansu. They wore armor that shimmered with energy shields. Each carried a pulse weapon that could turn a human to ash in seconds. Hansu looked up at the crowd. His eyes found Yuna. He smiled slightly as if to say it was all right. As if this was a price worth paying. The pulse weapon fired. Blue light filled the bay for a moment. Then Hansu was gone. Just a scorch mark on the metal floor where he had knelt. "Return to your duties," Thal ordered. The crowd dispersed quickly. Nobody wanted to be remembered as someone who lingered at an execution. Yuna walked back to her quarters in a daze. The small room she shared with 3 other workers felt suffocating. She lay on her bunk and stared at the ceiling. Something inside her had broken, or maybe something had finally awakened. That night she found a data chip hidden in her toolbox. It had not been there this morning. She plugged it into her personal tablet, hands shaking. A message appeared on the screen. Text only, no audio. "They want us to forget what we were. They want us to believe we deserve to be servants. But some of us remember. Some of us know the truth. If you want to learn what they are hiding, come to Section D7, Sublevel 9, at midnight. Come alone." Delete this message. Yuna deleted it. She lay back down, her heart racing. This was insane. If caught, she would end up like Hansu. But Hansu died trying to help her remember. Could she honor his memory by staying silent and obedient? Across the station, in the military section, Captain Doyen studied reports in his office. At 35, he commanded a small unit of human soldiers in the Concordat Enforcement Division. It was one of the few positions where humans held any authority, though they always answered to alien officers. The reports troubled him. Strange messages passing between human workers. Whispered conversations that stopped when supervisors approached. Small acts of defiance. Tools going missing. Minor sabotage to equipment. Nothing major, but the pattern concerned his superiors. "Captain, you will investigate these incidents," his commanding officer, a tall insectoid alien named Kresh, had ordered that morning. "Humans are your species. You understand how they think. Find the source of this unrest and eliminate it." Doyen knew what eliminate meant. It meant executions. It meant innocent people dying because they were connected to whoever was causing trouble. He had watched it happen before. He had even participated, telling himself he was preventing worse violence. But lately, doubt gnawed at him. He had been reading classified files, things most humans never saw. Historical records of Earth before the Concordat arrived. Humanity had been divided, yes. Violent, yes, but also creative, determined, capable of incredible things. They had explored their entire solar system with primitive technology. They had survived countless wars and disasters. The Concordat taught that humanity needed guidance, that without alien oversight, humans would destroy themselves. But what if that was a lie? What if humanity was kept weak on purpose? Doyen shook his head. Dangerous thoughts. He had a duty. He had sworn an oath. He would investigate the unrest and file his report. That was all. He started with the database, looking for patterns. The messages all referenced something called the Phoenix Archive. No details, just the name. Workers mentioned it in whispers, quickly silenced. Some spoke of remembering the fire, or the old strength. He decided to interview a worker who had been flagged for suspicious behavior. A young man named Taman, barely 20 years old. They brought him to an interrogation room, scared and confused. "I did not do anything wrong," Taman insisted. "I just work in the gardens. I grow food." Doyen studied him. The boy was terrified, but there was something else in his eyes. A flicker of defiance, a spark that refused to die. "Tell me about the Phoenix Archive," Doyen said calmly. Taman's face went pale. "I do not know what that is. Do not lie to me. I can help you if you cooperate. But if you refuse, my superiors will take over the questioning. They are not as patient as I am." The young man's jaw tightened. He looked directly at Doyen. "You are human like me. How can you serve them? How can you hunt your own people?" The question hit Doyen like a physical blow. He had asked himself the same thing many times. He had no good answer. Before he could respond, alarms blared throughout the station. His comm device activated. "Captain Doyen, report to command immediately. We have a situation." He left Taman in the room and rushed to command. On the screens, he saw something impossible. 3 Concordat supply stations in 3 different systems had gone dark simultaneously. All defenses disabled. All communications cut. For the first time in 400 years, someone had struck back against the Concordat. Humanity had just thrown the first punch in a war that would shake the galaxy. The images from Titan played on every screen in the Phoenix Archive base. Yuna watched the footage for the 10th time, unable to look away. The domes collapsing, the fires spreading, bodies floating in the vacuum. 40,000 people dead in minutes. Turn it off, Minho growled, but nobody moved. They needed to see it, needed to understand what they had done. Ji-won stood at the front of the command center, her face pale but controlled. We knew there would be retaliation. We knew the Concordat would respond with violence. This is not unexpected. Not unexpected? A woman named Isol stood up, her voice shaking with rage. We killed 40,000 people. Those were our people. Our families. The Concordat killed them, Ji-won replied firmly. We attacked military targets. They chose to murder civilians. Do not let them shift the blame to us. But the words felt hollow. Yuna could see it in everyone's faces. They had lit the spark that caused this inferno. Intention did not matter to the dead. The base fractured over the next few days. Some wanted to surrender, to beg for mercy, to hope the Concordat would stop if they gave up. Others wanted immediate retaliation, to strike back harder and faster. Minho led the aggressive faction, demanding they hit Concordat colonies, make them feel the same pain. Yuna said nothing. She worked in the engineering section, trying to lose herself in technical problems. Guilt ate at her from the inside. She kept seeing Hansu's face. Would he have wanted this? Would he have accepted 40,000 deaths as the price of freedom? On the 5th day after Titan, a supply ship arrived with an unexpected passenger. Captain Doyen stepped off the transport and was immediately surrounded by armed guards. He raised his hand slowly. I am here to help. I brought intelligence. They brought him to the command center. Minho, Ji-won, and Sunho studied him with suspicion. Yuna watched from the corner, curious despite herself. You are a Concordat officer, Minho said. Why would you betray them? I watched them glass Titan. I watched them murder 40,000 innocent people and call it justice. Doyen set a case on the table. I brought classified files, schematics of their warships, tactical protocols, command structures, a list of human officers who are questioning their loyalty. Sunho grabbed the case and began examining the data chips inside. His eyes widened as he scanned the information. This is real. This is current. If this is accurate, it changes everything. It is accurate, Doyen said. I spent 15 years in their military. I know their weaknesses. Ji-won studied him carefully. You could be a spy. This could be a trap, possible. But you need what I have, and I need what you have. I need purpose. I need to fight back against what I have been serving. Minho stepped closer, his scarred face inches from Doyen's. If you are lying, I will kill you myself. Fair enough. They gave Doyen a small room and kept him under watch. For 3 days, Sunho verified the intelligence while others debated what to do with their new arrival. Yuna found herself observing him from a distance. He moved with precise efficiency. Every action calculated, every word measured. He was the opposite of her emotional, impulsive nature. On the 4th day, they met properly. She was working on a power converter when he approached. You are Yuna, he said, the engineer who sabotaged Nexus Prime. I did not know what I was doing, she replied coldly. Ignorance does not erase responsibility. His words hit like a slap. What do you know about responsibility? You served them for 15 years. How many people died because you followed their orders? Doyen's expression did not change, but something flickered in his eyes. Pain maybe, or regret, more than I can count. I told myself I was preventing worse outcomes. I told myself I was protecting humans by keeping us obedient. I was wrong. And now you want forgiveness? You want to feel better about yourself by joining us? No, I want to fight. Forgiveness is not possible for what I have done. But stopping them is. Yuna turned back to her work. People like you are why we stayed slaves for 400 years. You were so busy being disciplined and obedient that you forgot how to be human. And people like you are why 40,000 died on Titan. Doyen replied quietly. You were so focused on rebellion that you did not think about the consequences. She wanted to hit him. She wanted to scream. But his words cut deep because they were true. They both carried guilt. They both had blood on their hands. Then I guess we are both monsters, she said. Maybe. But we can be monsters who fight for something better. Over the following weeks, the dynamic in the base shifted. Doyen proved his value repeatedly. He trained fighters in tactics they had never seen. He analyzed Concordat patrol patterns and found gaps. He turned scattered rebels into something resembling a military force, but his methods clashed with the Phoenix Archive's independent spirit. He demanded discipline. He expected instant obedience. When people questioned him, he shut them down. This is not a democracy, he told a group of fighters who protested his harsh training schedule. In combat, hesitation means death. You follow orders or you get people killed. Minho appreciated the structure, but others resented it. Yuna found herself caught between both worlds. She understood Doyen's logic, but she hated his coldness. The tension broke during a planning session for their next operation. Jiwan proposed a daring plan. The Concordat kept a massive dreadnought called Eternal Judgment at the Neptune shipyards. If they could steal it, they would have a capital ship. They could fight the Concordat on equal terms. It is suicide, Doyen said flatly. The security on that ship is impossible to breach. Nothing is impossible, Minho countered. We just need the right approach. The right approach gets us killed and achieves nothing. We should focus on smaller targets. Build our strength gradually, Yuna stood up. We cannot wait. Every day we delay, more humans die. The Concordat is hunting us across every colony. We need a symbol, something that proves we can win. Doyen looked at her. Symbols do not win wars. Strategy wins wars. Then strategize a way to take the ship, she shot back. For a long moment they stared at each other. Then Doyen turned to the hollow table and studied the schematics of the dreadnought. His mind worked through possibilities, angles, weaknesses. If we are going to do this, he said slowly, we need perfect timing and perfect execution. I will lead the combat team. Yuna handles the technical breach. We bring 30 fighters, no more. Fast insertion during crew rotation. We hold the bridge until the ship can jump to hyperspace. Jiwan nodded. Can it work? Probably not. But if you are determined to try, this is our best chance. The planning took 2 weeks. Every detail mapped. Every contingency covered. Yuna designed a program to bypass the ship's security. Doyen drilled the combat team until they moved like a single organism. The night before the mission, Yuna found Doyen on an observation platform overlooking the underground base. He stood alone, staring at nothing. Cannot sleep? She asked. Never sleep well before combat. He glanced at her. You should rest. Tomorrow will be difficult, I know. She stood beside him. I still think you are too rigid, too controlled. I think you are too reckless, too emotional. But you respect that I care, that I feel things, he considered this. Yes, and you respect that I think ahead, that I plan. Maybe we need both, Yuna admitted. Your discipline, my defiance. Maybe. They stood in comfortable silence for a while, two broken people carrying guilt and determination in equal measure. If we die tomorrow, Yuna said, at least we die fighting. If we die tomorrow, Doyen replied, we die making them afraid. The next morning, 30 fighters boarded a stealth transport. They headed for Neptune, for the impossible mission for the dreadnought that could change everything. None of them knew if they would return. All of them knew it did not matter. The war demanded sacrifice. Freedom demanded blood, and humanity had decided the price was worth paying. The stealth transport drifted through the Neptune shipyards like a ghost. Yuna watched through the viewport as the massive dreadnought Eternal Judgment came into view. The ship was 3 kilometers long, bristling with weapons powered by reactors that could level a planet. It represented 400 years of technological advancement that humanity had been denied. Today, they would take it. 5 minutes to crew rotation. Sunho's voice crackled through the comm. He was their eyes and ears, hacking Concordat communications from a safe distance. Security teams are changing shifts. You will have a 90-second window when the docking bay is understaffed. Doyen checked his weapon one last time. Around him, 29 other fighters did the same. They wore stolen Concordat maintenance uniforms. The plan was simple in concept, nearly impossible in execution. Get on board during rotation. Fight to the bridge. Hold it long enough for Yuna to override the ship's command systems and jump to hyperspace. Remember the training, Doyen said calmly. Move fast. Stay together. No hesitation. We do this right or we do not do it at all. The transport latched onto the docking port. The doors opened. They moved. The first guard died before he could raise an alarm. Doyen's blade found his throat in silence. The second guard managed to trigger his comm device before Minho put him down. That meant 30 seconds before reinforcements arrived. Go, 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 Doyen commanded. They sprinted through the corridors. Yuna's tablet displayed the route to the bridge, mapped from the schematics Doyen had provided. Left turn, up 3 levels. through the engineering section. Every second counted, alarms began to wail. Red emergency lights bathed the corridors. The Concordat crew knew they were under attack now. The element of surprise was gone. "Contact front," someone shouted. A squad of alien soldiers appeared ahead. They wore heavy armor and carried pulse rifles. Doyen did not slow down. He threw a magnetic charge that stuck to the wall beside them. The explosion tore through the corridor, scattering bodies and debris. They pushed through the smoke. More guards appeared. The fighting became brutal and close. Una fired her weapon with shaking hands, hitting nothing, while trained fighters around her moved with lethal efficiency. A blast hit the man beside her. He fell, half his body gone. She wanted to stop to help, but Minho grabbed her arm and pulled her forward. "Keep moving. You die if you stop." They reached the engineering section. This was Una's moment. She ran to the main console while the others formed a defensive perimeter. Her fingers flew across the controls, uploading the virus she had designed. It would spread through the ship's systems, giving her access to everything. "How long?" Doyen asked, firing at enemies trying to breach their position. 2 minutes! "We do not have 2 minutes. But she kept working. The virus spread. Access codes fell one by one. She was inside the ship's brain now, rewiring it, making it answer to her instead of its original masters. Explosions rocked the corridor. Someone screamed. The defensive line was breaking. Too many guards. Too much firepower, Una. Minho roared. "Now!" "Almost there." One final command. One final override. The ship's systems accepted her authority. "Done. Move to the bridge!" They ran again. Half their team was gone now. 14 fighters instead of 30. Blood marked their path. Behind them, Concordat soldiers pursued, but Una had sealed doors in their way, buying precious seconds. The bridge doors stood before them. Massive. Reinforced. Designed to withstand ship-to-ship weapons. Una placed shaped charges at the hinges while pulse fire hammered their position. 1 charge, 2, 3, 4, clear. She pressed the detonator. The explosion was deafening. The doors buckled inward. They rushed through into the bridge. The ship's command crew looked up in shock. These were not soldiers. These were navigators, technicians, officers who never expected to fight for their lives. Doyen gave them one chance. Surrender and live. The ship's captain, a tall alien with forearms and proud eyes, reached for his weapon. Doyen shot him. The others raised their hands. Off the bridge now. The alien crew fled. Una immediately took the primary console, linking it to her tablet. The ship's systems responded to her commands. She could fly this thing. She could make it jump to hyperspace. They were going to succeed. Then the secondary bridge doors exploded inward. She had forgotten. Dreadnoughts had multiple entry points to the bridge. Redundancy in case of emergencies. And now that emergency protocol was killing them. 50 Concordat soldiers poured through the breach. Elite guard units in powered armor. The remaining human fighters formed a desperate line, but it was not enough. They were outnumbered 4-1. "Una, jump now!" Doyen shouted over the chaos of weapons fire. "The calculations are not ready. If I jump blind, we could appear inside a star." "Do it anyway." Minho appeared beside her, his scarred face grim. "I will buy you time. Get this ship out of here." Before she could respond, he turned and charged the Concordat soldiers. One old man against 50 enemies. He fired his weapon empty, then drew a blade. He killed 3 before they brought him down. But those precious seconds let 2 other fighters reach flanking positions. The tide of the battle shifted slightly. Una worked frantically on the jump calculations. The ship's navigation systems were different from anything she had trained on. She made her best guess at coordinates. "Anywhere was better than here. Jump ready," she called out. "Do it!" Doyen yelled. He stood at the last choke point, weapon empty, holding the line with nothing but determination. Una activated the hyperspace drive. Reality twisted. The ship lurched. Through the viewport, the stars stretched into lines of light. They had done it. They had stolen a Concordat dreadnought. The bridge fell silent except for the sound of heavy breathing. Una looked around. Of the 30 fighters who started the mission, 7 remained alive. 23 bodies left behind in the corridors of Neptune shipyard. 23 people who would never see freedom. Doyen limped to the captain's chair, bleeding from a dozen wounds. He collapsed into it, exhausted. "Status? We are in hyperspace. No pursuit detected. Hull integrity at 70%. Life support stable. We are alive. Yuna's voice cracked on the last word. One of the surviving fighters, a young woman named Bora, started crying. Others simply stared at nothing, processing what they had endured. Minho? Someone asked. Yuna shook her head. He did not make it. The bridge fell silent again. Minho had been with the Phoenix Archive since the beginning. He had waited 400 years to strike back at the Concordat. He had died making sure this ship escaped. Doyen stood slowly, painfully. His sacrifice was not in vain. We have a dreadnought. We have a weapon that can fight the Concordat on equal terms. We honor him by using it well. We should name it, Bora said softly. Name it after what we are fighting for. Yuna looked at the command console. She accessed the ship's registry and changed the name. The Eternal Judgment was no more. Now it was the Defiance, a human ship, a symbol of resistance. Over the next few hours, they explored their prize. The ship had weapons that could crack moons, shields that could withstand sustained fleet bombardment, engines that could outrun anything in Concordat space. And in the cargo holds, they found something even more valuable. Intact Concordat technology, weapon systems, shield generators, reactor designs, everything they needed to build more ships, to arm more fighters, to actually win this war. Sunho's voice came through the comm. Defiance, this is Phoenix Archive. Congratulations on the impossible. Now get back here before they find you. Doyen took the captain's chair again. Set course for Mars, best speed. Yuna worked the navigation console. Her hands still shook from adrenaline and grief. She kept seeing Minho's final charge, kept seeing the bodies in the corridors. Was it worth it? She asked quietly. 23 dead for one ship? Doyen looked at her. His face was haggard, aged beyond his years by what they had done. Ask me again when this war is over. Ask me when humanity is free. Then we will know if the price was worth paying. The Defiant streaked through hyperspace toward Mars, carrying its cargo of stolen hope and purchased freedom. Behind them, the Concordat scrambled to understand what had happened. A servitor species had just stolen one of their most powerful warships. The impossible had occurred, and in the halls of the Concordat Council, for the first time in 50,000 years, fear entered the discussion. Humanity was no longer a species to be controlled. Humanity was a threat to be eliminated. The war was no longer about suppressing rebels. It was about survival. Both sides knew it. Both sides prepared for what came next. And in the quiet of the Defiance's bridge, Yuna and Doyen sat together. Two people forged by fire into something stronger than they had been alone. His discipline had kept them alive. Her defiance had made them fight. Together they had achieved the impossible. Tomorrow the Concordat would come for them with everything they had. But today humanity had won. The Defiance hung in orbit above Mars like a steel promise. For 3 weeks, human engineers had swarmed over every centimeter of the captured dreadnought, studying its systems, reverse engineering its technology, learning secrets the Concordat had kept hidden for centuries. Yuna led the engineering teams. She barely slept. Every hour spent resting was an hour not learning, and they needed to learn everything. The ship's reactor alone was a marvel. It generated power using principles humanity had theorized but never achieved. The weapon systems could target enemies across vast distances with perfect accuracy. The shields bent energy around the ship like water around a stone. But as they studied, they discovered something surprising. The technology was not revolutionary. It was refined. Perfected over millennia, yes, but based on concepts humans already understood. The Concordat had the advantage of time, not genius. Look at this, Hiyori called out from her workstation. She displayed schematics for the ship's pulse cannons. The energy conversion is elegant but inefficient. They prioritize clean power cycles over raw output. A human-designed weapon would hit twice as hard using the same energy. Doyen, who had been observing the engineering work, stepped closer. Why would they build weapons with less power? Because they have been at peace for 50,000 years, Yuna realized. They have not needed to optimize for warfare. Their weapons are tools for enforcement, not combat against equals. The implications spread through the team like wildfire. The Concordat's technology was superior for peace, but humanity's entire history was war. Every human innovation in the last 10,000 years had been driven by conflict, competition, survival. Their technology had been shaped by necessity into something brutal and efficient. Over the following days, human engineers began redesigning concordate systems using human principles. They stripped away elegant redundancies and built weapons that were ugly, crude, and devastating. They created a new fighter craft design using stolen concordate components arranged in ways no alien engineer would consider. They called it the Valkyrie. The first prototype flew a week later. It was smaller than concordate fighters, faster, more maneuverable. Its weapons were overpowered for its size, straining the power systems but delivering incredible damage. It sacrificed shield strength for speed, betting that not getting hit was better than absorbing hits. Doyen took it for a test flight. When he returned, his report was simple. "This ship is dangerous. It handles like nothing I have flown. But in combat it would shred anything the Concordate has." Production began immediately. The Phoenix Archive had limited resources, but what they had went into building Valkyries. Within a month, they had 20 functional fighters. Within 2 months, 50. Pilots trained day and night, learning to push the ships to their limits. But the breakthrough that changed everything came from an unexpected source. A neurologist named Soman had been studying cognitive patterns in human pilots versus alien pilots. Her research revealed something fascinating. Human reaction times in combat scenarios are faster, she explained to the Phoenix Archive leadership. Not by much. Maybe 50 milliseconds on average. But that is enough to matter in a dogfight. Why? Jiwan asked. Evolution. Humans spent hundreds of thousands of years as both predators and prey. Our brains developed to process threat information instantly. We can assess multiple dangers simultaneously and prioritize responses without conscious thought. The concordate species evolved on worlds with fewer apex predators. They are smart, but they think before reacting. Humans react, then think. Doyen understood immediately. In simulations, human pilots beat alien pilots in close combat. Always. We thought it was training, but it is biology. More than that, Soman continued. Human pattern recognition is superior for tactical situations. We see connections faster. We adapt strategies mid-combat. The concordate species are better at long-term planning and complex theoretical work, but in split-second life-or-death situations, humans have the advantage. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. For 400 years, humanity had been told they were inferior. Too violent, too unstable. But violence and instability were survival traits. They made humans dangerous. Minho would have loved this, Yuna thought. Knowing that everything the Concordate feared about humanity was exactly what would bring them down. They began redesigning their entire combat doctrine around human strengths, close-range engagements where reflexes mattered, unpredictable attack patterns that confused alien tactical computers, asymmetric warfare that exploited concordate assumptions about how battles should be fought. Meanwhile, across concordate space, the political situation deteriorated. News of the Defiance's capture had spread to every servitor species. Rebellion sparked on 3 worlds. Riots broke out on a dozen more. The Concordate's grip on their empire was slipping. They responded the only way they knew how. With force. They sent fleets to suppress the uprisings. They bombed rebellious colonies into submission. They proved again and again that they would kill to maintain control, but each act of violence created more resistance. Each execution inspired more defiance. The Phoenix Archive was no longer alone. Across the galaxy, oppressed species watched humanity fight back and found their own courage. 6 months after the capture of the Defiance, Concordate intelligence identified the Phoenix Archive's location. Mars, the abandoned mining tunnels. They assembled a fleet of 200 warships and prepared to eliminate the human rebellion once and for all. Sunho detected the fleet while it was still 3 days away. They are coming. Everything they have. This is the end game. Jiwan looked at their forces. 1 dreadnought, 50 Valkyrie fighters, 30 converted cargo ships with improvised weapons. Against 200 concordate warships, it was hopeless. We evacuate, someone suggested. Take what we can and scatter. Live to fight another day. No. Doyen's voice cut through the discussion. We stand and fight. If we run, they will hunt us down one by one. If we fight, we might win. Might is not good enough, another officer argued. The math does not work. We are outnumbered 4-1. Yuna stood. The math does not work for them either. They expect us to run or surrender. They expect a short battle against demoralized rebels. We give them something else. We give them the fight of their lives. Doyen looked at her. In 6 months, they had become partners in ways neither expected. His discipline balanced her passion. Her creativity challenged his rigidity. Together, they were more than the sum of their parts. "We use Mars itself as a weapon," he said, warming to the idea. "The debris fields, the old mining equipment, everything that makes this place difficult to navigate. We turn it into a killing ground." Planning consumed the next 3 days. They positioned the Defiance behind Mars, hidden from initial scans. They scattered the Valkyrie squadrons among the debris fields, waiting in ambush. They rigged old mining equipment with explosives, ready to detonate. They prepared Mars's moons for controlled destruction, creating artificial asteroid fields, and they sent a message to every human in concordate space, every station, every colony, every ship. "This is the Phoenix Archive. We are about to fight the concordate fleet at Mars. We expect to die, but we will die proving that humanity can fight back. Remember us. Remember that we were slaves who chose to be warriors, and when you are ready, join us." The message was intercepted and spread by sympathetic humans across the galaxy. It could not be stopped. Millions heard it. Millions felt the spark of defiance ignite in their hearts. On the 3rd day, the concordate fleet arrived at Mars. 200 warships bristling with weapons, carrying enough firepower to scorch the planet clean. The fleet commander, an arrogant alien named Turvak, broadcast his own message. "Humans of Mars, you have 1 hour to surrender. After that, we will destroy everything. Your rebellion ends today." Una sat in the Defiance's engineering station. Doyen stood on the bridge. Throughout the hidden base and scattered among the debris, human fighters waited. 1 hour passed. Turvak ordered the attack, and humanity struck back with everything they had learned, everything they had built, and 400 years of repressed rage. The battle for Mars began, the battle that would determine whether humanity remained slaves or became something the galaxy had never seen. Warriors, free and terrible and unstoppable. The first concordate ships entered the debris field. The first Valkyrie fighters emerged from hiding. The first weapons fired, and the concordate learned what it meant to fight a species born from 10,000 years of war. The concordate fleet moved into the Mars debris field with confidence. 200 warships against a handful of rebels. Commander Turvak expected resistance, but he expected it to collapse quickly. Servitor species always broke when faced with overwhelming force. The first indication that something was wrong came when 12 of his forward ships exploded simultaneously. They had struck mines hidden in the debris disguised as ordinary rocks and metal fragments. "Evasive maneuvers," Turvak ordered. "Activate full shields." But as his ship scattered, the Valkyrie fighters emerged from the debris field like hunting predators. 50 small craft diving toward the massive concordate warships with suicidal aggression. Concordate point defense systems tracked them, but the human fighters moved wrong. Erratic patterns, sudden direction changes, flying like nothing the tactical computers had been programmed to counter. The first Valkyrie pilot, a woman named Isul, locked onto a cruiser's engine section and fired everything she had. The cruiser's shields held, but barely. 3 more Valkyries joined her, concentrating fire on the same point. The shields collapsed. Missiles found the engine core. The cruiser broke apart. "Impossible," Turvak muttered. Those fighters were too small to threaten capital ships, but they were doing it anyway. Doyen watched the battle from the Defiance's bridge, still hidden behind Mars. Phase 1 successful. Move to Phase 2. Hidden among the debris, 30 converted cargo ships activated their engines. They were not fighters. They were barely armed, but they were expendable. And each one carried a human pilot willing to die. They accelerated toward the concordate fleet, broadcasting surrender signals. Turvak's ships held fire, confused by the mixed signals. Were these rebels surrendering or attacking? The cargo ships reached the fleet's formation. Then they detonated. Each ship was packed with stolen concordate explosives. 30 simultaneous explosions in the heart of the enemy formation. Shields collapsed. Ships collided. Chaos spread through the fleet. "Now," Doyen commanded. "Defiance, weapons free." The captured dreadnought emerged from behind Mars, all weapons firing. Pulse cannons carved through concordate ships. Missiles found targets. The Defiance was one ship against hundreds, but it was the most powerful ship in the battle, crewed by humans who had nothing left to lose. Turvak's fleet reacted with trained precision. They focused fire on the Defiance, dozens of ships hammering its shields with concentrated firepower. The dreadnought shuddered under the assault. Shields at 40%. Yuna called out from engineering. We cannot take this much longer. We do not need to, Doyen replied. Sunho, detonate the moon charges. On Phobos, Mars's closest moon, buried explosives detonated in a carefully calculated pattern. The moon did not explode. It fractured. Massive chunks of rock broke free and began falling toward Mars. But Sunho had aimed them well. They fell through the Concordate fleet formation like deadly rain. Ships scattered to avoid the debris. Formation broke. Turvak's organized battle line became chaos, and in chaos human pilots thrived. The Valkyrie squadrons dove into the confusion, hunting wounded ships, exploiting gaps in formation, killing with brutal efficiency. Human reaction times made the difference. Where Concordate pilots needed seconds to assess and respond to threats, human pilots reacted instantly on instinct. A young pilot named Kihyun found himself facing 3 enemy fighters. His tactical computer screamed warnings. His training said to retreat, but his instincts said attack. He dove between them, firing in 3 directions simultaneously, trusting his reflexes to keep him alive. 2 enemy fighters collided trying to track him. He destroyed the third at point-blank range. Across the battlefield, similar stories played out. Human pilots doing impossible things because they did not know they were impossible, fighting with desperation and creativity that no tactical manual could predict. But the cost was terrible. Valkyries fell. Pilots died. For every Concordate ship destroyed, humanity lost 2 fighters. The numbers did not favor them. Doyen watched the tactical display as their forces dwindled. They had inflicted massive casualties on the Concordate fleet. Over 100 enemy ships damaged or destroyed. But the remaining Concordate vessels were reorganizing, and the Defiance's shields were failing. Captain, shields at 10%, Yuna reported. Hull breaches on decks 4 through 7. We are losing life support in the aft sections. Doyen made a decision. All fighters fall back to the Defiance. We are getting out of here. Sir, we can still fight, Isol protested over the comm. We can die fighting, yes, but dying achieves nothing now. We won, we bloodied their nose. Now we survived to do it again. The remaining Valkyries retreated to the Defiance's launch bays. The dreadnought turned toward open space, engines burning at maximum. Turvak's fleet pursued, but they were disorganized, damaged, demoralized. They had expected an easy victory. They had gotten a massacre. As the Defiance jumped to hyperspace, Doyen took stock of their losses. Of 50 Valkyrie fighters, 19 remained. 30 converted cargo ships, all destroyed with their volunteer pilots. The Defiance itself barely functional, held together by emergency repairs. But the Concordate had lost over 130 warships. Their fleet had been routed. For the first time in their 50,000-year history, they had suffered a major defeat. In the days that followed, news of the Battle of Mars spread across the galaxy faster than the Concordate could suppress it. The footage was everywhere. Human fighters destroying Concordate cruisers, the Defiance emerging from behind Mars like an avenging god, the moon of Phobos raining destruction on the enemy fleet. Servitor species on 100 worlds watched and felt hope ignite. If humans could fight back, so could they. Rebellions that had been smoldering burst into flame. The Concordate's empire began to crack. On a hidden station where the Defiance had fled for repairs, Yuna worked alongside repair crews. Her hands were steady now. The guilt over Titan remained, but it had been joined by something else. Pride. They had achieved what everyone said was impossible. Doyen found her in the engine room. His uniform was torn, his face showed bruises from the battle. We lost 31 ships. Hundreds of people. But we won, Yuna said. We proved they can bleed. Yes, he paused. You saved my life during the battle. When the shields collapsed and that cruiser had us targeted, your emergency power reroute gave us the seconds we needed to evade. You led us to victory. Your tactics worked. They looked at each other. Somewhere during 6 months of fighting, preparation and survival, their animosity had transformed into respect, and respect had become something deeper. We make a good team, Doyen said quietly. Your defiance gives us courage. My discipline keeps us alive. Then we keep doing it, Yuna replied. Until we are free. A week later, a message reached them through encrypted channels. It was from the Concordate. They wanted to negotiate. They wanted a ceasefire. For the first time in 400 years, they were willing to talk to humans as something other than property. Ji-Wan called an emergency meeting. The surviving Phoenix Archive leadership gathered in the Defiance's conference room. The debate was intense. This could be a trap, someone warned. They want us to lower our guard. Or they are genuinely afraid, Ji-Wan countered. We hurt them badly. They know if we keep fighting, we will hurt them more. Maybe they are ready to negotiate real terms. What terms? Another asked. Limited autonomy? Conditional freedom? We did not fight for scraps, Doyen stood. We fought for freedom. Complete freedom, sovereignty, equality. If they are willing to negotiate, we go to the table and demand everything. And if they refuse, we go back to war. The war might kill us all, someone said quietly. Then we die free, Yuna replied. Better than living as slaves. The vote was close, but they agreed to send a delegation. Doyen and Yuna would represent humanity. They would meet the Concordat at a neutral station called Convergence Point. They would demand humanity's rightful place as an equal species in the galaxy. As the Defiance prepared to carry them to the negotiation, Yuna stood in the observation deck looking out at the stars. These were the same stars humans had dreamed of reaching for thousands of years. Now they were fighting for the right to explore them as free people. Doyen joined her. Nervous? Terrified. What if we cannot negotiate peace? What if the war continues until we are all dead? Then we die having tried. But I think they are more afraid than we are. We have nothing left to lose. They have an empire that is falling apart. How did this happen? Yuna wondered. 6 months ago, I was just an engineer fixing fusion cores. Now I am negotiating the fate of humanity. You were never just an engineer. You were a warrior waiting to wake up. We all were. The Defiance jumped to hyperspace, carrying 2 humans toward a meeting that would determine the future of their species. Behind them, across the galaxy, millions of humans and other servitor species watched and waited. The rebellion had proven that resistance was possible. Now it would prove that freedom was achievable. The age of servitude was ending. What came next, nobody knew. But for the first time in 400 years, humanity would have a voice in deciding their own fate. And they would not whisper. They would roar. The station called Convergence Point hung in neutral space between star systems, built centuries ago for diplomatic meetings between concordate species. Yuna and Doyen stepped off their shuttle into a world of elegant architecture and alien diplomats. Everything was designed to intimidate lesser species. Everything was meant to remind servitors of their place. But Yuna and Doyen walked with their heads high. They wore simple uniforms, carried no weapons, but moved with the confidence of people who had nothing left to fear. Behind them, the Defiance waited at the edge of the system with its weapons hot and shields raised. If this was a trap, the Concordat would pay dearly. They were escorted to a conference chamber where 12 beings waited. Representatives of the 12 Concordat species. Some looked reptilian, others insectoid. One resembled living crystal. All of them watched the 2 humans with expressions ranging from curiosity to contempt. At the head of the table sat Kalara, a diplomat from the Vryn species. She looked almost human, except for the subtle blue tint to her skin and eyes that glowed faintly. She gestured to seats across from the Concordat delegation. Welcome, Kalara said. Her voice carried respect, which surprised Yuna. We have much to discuss. We have one thing to discuss, Doyen replied, sitting down. Humanity's freedom. Everything else is secondary. A representative from the krill species who looked like an armored insect made a chittering sound of displeasure. You destroyed over 100 of our ships, killed thousands of our people, and now you make demands? You glassed Titan, Yuna shot back. You killed 40,000 humans who did nothing wrong. You have oppressed us for 400 years. We are making demands because we have earned the right. Another representative from the crystalline Than species spoke in a voice like breaking glass. You are a servitor species, naturally aggressive, prone to violence. You have proven exactly why you need our guidance. We are violent because you gave us no other option, Doyen said calmly. You took our freedom and expected us to accept it. When we fought back, you escalated. This war is on you, not us. Kalara raised a hand, silencing the other representatives. Let us speak honestly. The Battle of Mars changed everything. Not just militarily, but politically. 7 other servitor species have risen in rebellion. 3 more are on the verge. Our empire is fracturing. We can continue this war and watch our civilization collapse, or we can negotiate a new relationship with humanity and, by extension, other servitor species. What are you offering? Yuna asked. Client species status. You would have limited self-governance over human colonies. A voice in concordant decisions affecting your people. Protection under our military. No. Doyen's voice was flat. That is slavery with better terms. We want full sovereignty. Control over all human systems. The right to our own military. Recognition as an equal member of the Concordat, not a subject. The chamber erupted. Multiple representatives spoke at once, voices raised in anger and disbelief. The concept of giving full equality to a servitor species was unthinkable. It went against 50,000 years of tradition. Kalara let them argue for a moment, then spoke quietly. Her voice cut through the chaos. 50,000 years ago, the Concordat was not an empire. We were rebels. Did you know that? Silence fell. Even Yuna and Doyen looked surprised. There was an older empire, Kalara continued. The Dominion. They ruled for 100,000 years. They kept our species as servants. We were the ones who rebelled. We were the ones who fought for freedom. And when we won, we swore we would be better. We would create a fair society based on cooperation, not oppression. She looked around the table at her fellow representatives, but somewhere along the way we forgot. We became comfortable. We stopped seeing servitor species as people who deserved freedom and started seeing them as problems to be managed. We became what we once fought against. The crystalline Than representative made a harsh sound. Sentimental history does not change reality. Humans are dangerous. All servitor species are. That is why we control them. They are dangerous because we taught them to be, Kalara argued. We suppressed their natural growth. We denied them the right to develop peacefully. We created the very threats we claimed to protect against. Doyen leaned forward. You have two choices. Give us what we demand and gain humanity as an ally. We have proven we can fight. Imagine what we could do working with you instead of against you. Or refuse our demands and we will burn your empire to the ground. Even if we die doing it, we will take you down with us. That is a threat, the Krill representative hissed. That is a promise, Yuna said. We have nothing left to lose. You have everything to lose, so who has more reason to compromise? The debate continued for hours. Some representatives argued for total war, for exterminating humanity as an example. Others recognized the practical reality. The Concordat could not fight humanity and 7 other servitor rebellions simultaneously. Their empire was stretched too thin. Finally, Kalara called for a recess. The Concordat representatives left to discuss among themselves. Yuna and Doyen remained in the chamber alone. Do you think they will agree? Yuna asked. I think they are terrified. They have ruled for 50,000 years without serious challenge. Now their entire system is collapsing. They will agree because they have no other choice. And if they do not, then we go back to war. And we win or die trying. Yuna took his hand. During 6 months of fighting, planning, and surviving, something had grown between them. Trust, respect, love maybe, though neither had said the word. They were too focused on survival for romance, but when this was over, if they lived, there would be time for such things. Whatever happens, she said, I am glad I fought beside you. I am glad you woke me up, Doyen replied. I was sleepwalking through life, serving masters I should have opposed. You reminded me what it means to be human. The Concordat representatives returned. Kalara looked tired but determined. We have reached a decision. It was not unanimous. Several species wanted to continue the war, but the majority recognizes reality. She activated a holo display showing a document. A treaty. Yuna and Doyen read it quickly, hardly daring to believe what they saw. Full sovereignty for humanity over the Sol system and 3 neighboring systems. Freedom for all human servitors across Concordat space, with transportation provided for those who wish to return. Humanity granted membership in the Concordat Council as an equal species. Reparations paid over 50 years. Most importantly, a reform commission established to review the status of all servitor species and provide paths to independence. This is acceptable, Doyen said, his voice carefully controlled. Inside, his heart was racing. They had won. Actually won. One condition, Kalara added. Humanity must help us fight the other servitor rebellions. Prove that this new order works. Prove that former slaves can become partners. No, Yuna said immediately. We will not help you suppress other species fighting for the same freedom we just won. Not suppress, negotiate. Show them there is a path forward besides endless war. You understand what they feel because you felt it too. Help us build a better Concordat instead of watching the old one burn. Doyen considered this. It was fair. The Concordat was offering to change. They needed help making that change real. We will act as mediators. We will talk to the rebel species, but we will not fight them. And if they want independence like we do, you will grant it. Agreed. The treaty was signed. Humanity was free. After 400 years of servitude, the chains were broken. News of the treaty spread across the galaxy within hours. On Earth, humans celebrated in the streets. On colonies across Concordat space, servitor species watched and began planning their own negotiations. The rebellion had succeeded beyond anyone's wildest hopes. 10 years later, Yuna stood with Doyun and their daughter Sora at the Eye, memorial of the fallen on Earth, black. Stone carved with thousands of names, Hansu, Minho, all. The pilots who died at Mars. All the people who sacrificed everything so others could be free. Earth was transformed. Cities rebuilt. Industries thriving. Human ships traveled freely across the galaxy. No longer as servants, but as equals. The Valkyrie fighters that won the Battle of Mars were now sold to other species. Human military academies trained officers from a dozen worlds. 3 servitor species had gained independence following humanity's example. 5 more were in negotiations. The Concordat was changing slowly but surely into something closer to what it claimed to be. A partnership of equals, not an empire of masters and slaves. Mama, who were they? Sora asked, pointing at the names on the memorial. She was 7 years old, born free, never knowing what it meant to be a slave. They were heroes, Yuna said. They fought so you would never have to live the way they did. Will there be more fighting? Doyen knelt beside his daughter. Maybe the galaxy is a big place. But if there is fighting, it will be between equals, not masters and slaves. That age is over. They walked through the memorial gardens. Other families did the same. Some were young, like them. Others were old, people who remembered the Concordat's arrival. All of them carried the memory of what it cost to be free. That evening, Doyen and Yuna stood on their apartment balcony, watching ships come and go from Earth's orbital stations. Cargo ships, military vessels, civilian transports, all flying human flags, all crewed by free people.